Well, I believe that I am live right now. So, welcome everyone. Hello. Thank you for joining me. My name is Lior Samfiru. You see my name there. I know it's a mouthful. I'm the employment lawyer. I'm one of the founding partners of Samfiru Tumarkin LLP. We practice employment law, we practice disability law. We're the biggest firm of our kind in Canada. And I am here live right now for one purpose, and that is to answer your questions, to help you understand your legal rights when it comes to your job, your workplace, your termination, your severance, your vaccination status. You name it, now is the time to ask questions to make sure that you walk away with the information that you need to have if you're facing a workplace problem. So what are you going to do? All you're going to do is you're going to type in your question, hit the enter button. I'll see it on my screen. I'll answer it, and you can walk away with that information. So this is live. It's live for you, not for me, it's for you. So if you want to talk to me, if you want to ask questions, hey, get them answered right now by me. You have one of the top employment lawyers in the country for your information here, answering questions. Now, before we get started, let me give you another contact information. If you want to reach out to me off social media, you don't want to ask your questions here, you want to talk to me privately, no problem. Here's what you do. All you do is you go to employmentlawyer.ca. Again, it's employmentlawyer.ca. You see that address below me. And on our website, you'll see my phone number, my email address. You'll see the contact information for everyone on my team. We're all there for you to answer questions. We represent people in Ontario, in BC, and in Alberta. So if you want to reach out, that's the place you go to, employmentlawyer.ca. But that's later, that's after. Right now, for the next 30 minutes, I'm live. I'm Lior Samfiru, and I want to answer your questions. So with that said, let's get started here today. Right now, first question on YouTube from Johnny. My employer is not willing to accommodate my return to work from LTD. What are my options? So the first question, Johnny, is whether your employer can accommodate, but they're choosing not to. An employer has a very strict duty to accommodate. It's under our human rights laws. So that means they may have to give you modified duties, modified hours, may have to change your work location, whatever it is that your doctor says you need in order to be able to come to work. If they can do that and they choose not to, that's number one, it's a human rights violation. That can also be considered a constructive dismissal. In other words, that's illegal. Now, if they're actually not able to do it, they wanted to, they try, they look everywhere, there's nothing they can do to accommodate you, well, that's different. But in most cases, an employer simply doesn't try hard enough. So, Johnny, if you believe that that's your case, let's talk, okay? I can give them a kick in the pants, or I could potentially get you compensation depending on what you want, but you need to reach out to me off air, off social media, so that I can get involved and get this resolved for you. Again, to do that, Johnny, or anyone else, employmentlawyer.ca. Again, employmentlawyer.ca to connect with me. Thank you for that question, guys. You have time, ask your question right now. I'm getting a bunch of them, so I'm going to start answering and continue doing so. Next question from VS 2015. Justification for drug testing in the workplace. It's not really a question. Bottom line is, for an employer to do drug testing, they need to be able to show that there's been a problem, okay? That it's not just random, that they've had some issues. There has to be a darn good reason for them to do that. In most cases, drug testing in the workplace is not legal. That could be considered a human rights violation. So there's very limited situations, mostly if there's been an issue with drug use in the workplace and there's no other way to really deal with that. If you have a specific question, let me know. Okay, next question from Heather on Facebook. If you are let go due to being vaccinated. Again, not a question, but let me see what I can tell you about that. So you can be let go for not being vaccinated. You can't physically stop your employer from letting you go, but your employer is going to have to pay you severance. And depending on how long you've worked there and your job, that could be as much as 2 years pay, 24 months pay that they owe you. So whenever you're let go because of your vaccine status, that in the eyes of the law is a termination without cause, meaning you have to be paid. Now, many employers, most employers don't do that. They'll terminate you because of your vaccine status and not pay you anything. Well, that's a wrongful dismissal. They can't do that. That's when we have to get involved. We're representing hundreds of people across Canada in exactly this situation. So VS 2015, if that's your case or if someone you know their situation, have them reach out to me as soon as possible through employmentlawyer.ca. Again, employmentlawyer.ca. Sorry, that was for Heather. Okay, JC2004X on YouTube. In the event that you use some personal equipment or a vehicle for your work, is any depreciation of the value calculated into severance? Also, are you owed any kind of severance if you're let go from an unpaid internship? So no, the depreciation of your vehicle does not count towards your severance. If you have a car allowance that the company gives you, they have to continue that for the severance period. If they give you a car to use while you're an employee, they have to give you an additional car allowance for your severance. But if you're using your own vehicle, then no. In terms of unpaid internship, well, if it's unpaid, then there can't be severance because you're not getting paid. So Heather asks, if you're let go because of being unvaccinated, can you still get EI? You can, but to get EI, we have to get you a proper record of employment. Your employer is probably going to give you a record of employment that doesn't allow you to qualify for EI. That's where we have to get involved and get them to issue you a new record of employment. So you probably are not going to get EI if you just apply with whatever your employer gives you. We have to get involved for that. So not just to get you severance, but also to get you a new record of employment so that you can receive EI. Okay, so Heather, again, reach out to me and let's speak. Now let's see. So guys, by the way, I'm Lior Samfiru. I'm the employment lawyer. I'm here to answer your questions. You've noticed that. So ask your question right now so that you get that information. Next question from No to Trudeau. Again, I'd rather you not make political statements, but fine. I worked in a TDSB school, non-union. How long can I be put on an unpaid leave for not being vaccinated? They actually can't put you on a leave at all. Well, they can, but it's not legal. So it's not a question of how long can you be on a leave. It's a question of, do you have to accept the leave? So if you are put on a leave, you have the option to treat that as a termination of employment now. You don't have to wait a day, a month, a year. You can choose to treat that as a termination now and get severance. So if you're put on a leave, you have two options. Option number one is you can accept it and wait at home as long as it takes for your employer to call you back to work. That's option one. Option number two is you can choose to treat that leave as a termination. You can do that whenever you want, and then you have to require your employer to pay you severance. If that's what you want to do, if you are choosing option number two, then you and I need to speak because you're not going to be able to do that on your own. You need some help for that. And again, to reach out to me, to reach out to my team, employmentlawyer.ca. Again, employmentlawyer.ca. Lots of questions coming in, guys. Keep them coming. Please take advantage. Keep them coming. Next question from Belinda on YouTube. Who should be responsible for paying for COVID testing in the workplace? Can my employer have employees pay a % of the cost? So, yes, an employer should be responsible for paying the testing. But here's the issue. Okay, the issue is a bit different than that. The issue, let's say your employer says you have to pay for it. Well, if you don't do it, they will let you go. Okay, you can't stop your employer from letting you go. They will have to pay you severance. Okay, let's be very clear there. You will have to pay you, but they will let you go. So the question is not really who should be paying or is it legal. The question is what happens if you say no. And if you say no, they will let you go or they'll put you on a leave. There's no employment law police that can come and stop them from doing that. So forget about is it legal. Think about what happens if you say no. If you say no, they will likely let you go, put you on a leave. They owe you severance. That could be as much as 24 months pay, but you have to decide what is better for you. Are you better off to pay what they're asking for the testing and continue working? Or are you better off saying no, and then when they let you go, we get you severance? That is a personal decision, but ultimately it's not about is it legal, it's about what happens if you say no. Next question on YouTube from Hamed. Return to work after temporary layoff. Employers proposing a new position, saying my old job is not available anymore due to restructuring. What are my rights? So the question is, how different is this new job from the job you had before? Depending on how different it is, that could be considered a constructive dismissal. If it's a constructive dismissal, that's a termination and your own compensation. So without knowing how different it is in terms of hours, salary, responsibility, management level, without knowing that, I can't tell you if it's legal or not. If it's a minor change, instead of using machine A, you're going to be using machine B. That's something they can do. If it's a different position completely, it's a demotion, different hours, something you're not trained for, then no, that's a constructive dismissal. So hopefully that helps, Hamed. If you want to discuss this further with me, because it could absolutely be a constructive dismissal, reach out to me through employmentlawyer.ca. Again, employmentlawyer.ca. Phone number is there, email address is there. And a reminder for those joining us right now, I'm the employment lawyer, Lior Samfiru. I'm the head of the employment law practice at Samfiru, Tumarkin, LLP, and I'm here to answer your questions. You're asking them, you see how I'm answering them. Keep them coming, please, guys. Next question is from Fuck You on YouTube. Okay, if my vacation days and I don't know what you mean by of my vacation days until they run out. Maybe you want to re-ask the question. Next question is from Jake. Hi, Lior, I got terminated, no severance pay. If they offer my job back, what if I don't want to work back? Can I demand severance? Yes, you can. But you don't have to wait for that to happen. You can get your severance right now. Whether they offer you a job or not, it's not going to change that in most cases, but I wouldn't wait, okay? I wouldn't wait to pursue severance until they offer your job back. Actually, if you wait, that can compromise your case. It can make it harder to get severance if you wait until that point. So if you've been let go and you're now waiting to see what happens, unless you want to go back, no problem, but unless you do, we should pursue your severance now, not later, now. Okay, so you want to contact me at employmentlawyer.ca so we can get to work, okay? So hopefully that helps, Jake. Next question from Mark on YouTube. Can my employer decide to change our employment status to contract worker? They said we are moving to annual contracts and we will not be entitled to severance if they don't renew at year end. Well, then, no, they can't do that, but they can't do that in the sense that they can't make you sign a new contract. But if you decide to sign a new contract, then you're bound by that new contract. So you can say, no, I'm not signing that new contract. And if because of that they let you go, they have to pay you severance. So ultimately, again, you decide what is better for you. Are you better off signing a new contract? And then you have to live with what that contract says. Again, I haven't seen it, so I can't tell you what it says. Or you say, I'm not signing it. And if because of that they let you go, they have to pay you severance. So, Mark, happy to chat with you further. If you want me to take a look at the contract, tell you what it says, whether you should sign it or not, contact me through employmentlawyer.ca. You see that address, employmentlawyer.ca. All right, continuing along here today. Lots of good questions today, guys. Really good. From JC 2004. If you get severance through the help of a lawyer, are the lawyer required to repay part of it if you gain employment before the end of the severance period? No, you don't repay you don't repay the severance. Next question is from Andre. My daughter has been dismissed from the military due to disobeying the vaccine directive. Is there anything you can do to help? Unfortunately not. I cannot help in the military. Let's see. Next from King Awesome. What a name. That's what I would call myself on social media, King Awesome, on YouTube. Has your firm concluded any cases concerning termination due to vaccine refusal? Can you vaguely describe the outcome? Oh, absolutely. We've already settled quite a few of them. And the outcome is exactly what I said. We negotiated severance. We negotiated proper compensation. So we've done that in many cases across Canada. We're doing that more and more every day. So absolutely, we're not sitting on these cases. We're not twiddling our thumbs. We're working hard to get them resolved, get individuals paid so that you can have that money and move on. Okay, so if you need some help, by all means, reach out to me, reach out to my team as well through employmentlawyer.ca. Let's see, next question. I'm a Gizmo dietitian. probably mispronounced it on YouTube. My employer required COVID testing in October for unvaxxed staff. Since November, the employee has to pay. I work from home and don't need tests. If I refuse the test in the future, will I get severance if I'm let go? Yes, you will get severance unless there's a government mandate that requires you to have those tests. Yes, you would get severance. But before you say no, okay, before you do anything, let's talk. Let's make sure we have our I's dotted and T's crossed so that we do this right. But yeah, that's the answer to the question. You would be entitled to severance. You can't be let go in that situation without severance. Right. Akib, question from Akib on Facebook. I injured myself at work. 2 years of light duties. Doctor said the injury is permanent and now I can't do my pre-injury job. WSIB and employer had a meeting. They let me go because of no work. I'm unionized. Can they just terminate me because they don't have any work? So you have to ask your union that, okay? Anything we talk about on these sessions only apply to non-union employees. If you're let go, if something happens to you and you're a unionized employee, the only one that can advise you and the only one that can help you is the union. So if you're a unionized employee and you ask me a question, I'm always going to say the same thing. You have to talk to your union. I can't advise you. I can't help you. I can't do anything for you. The only one that's allowed to help you is your union. So if you're listening to me today and you're part of a union, honestly, you have to ignore everything I say because whatever I'm talking about, when I answer questions, when I talk about rights, does not apply to you if you're part of a union, and only applies to non-union employees. That's why we call this employment law. Unionized employee would be called labor law. Okay. Next question from Heather on Facebook. The company introduced a new vaccine policy in October 2021. I'm facing being put on an unpaid leave for not providing my proof of vaccination. What are my rights? Well, as I've said already a few times, is you have a choice to make. Are you better off going on a leave and waiting for them to call you back to work at some point? Or do you want to treat the leave as a termination of employment and get severance? So there's really no third option. You either stay on a leave or you treat the leave as a termination. If you want to treat it as a termination, if you want to get severance, we need to do that. We need to get to work on that. As soon as the leave starts, you can contact me through employmentlawyer.ca. Now, before we continue, I've mentioned the word severance a number of times on this session. So you need to know, every employee needs to know how much severance you are owed. And spoiler alert, it's not a week's pay per year of service or 2 weeks pay. It's a heck of a lot more. So how do you find out right now in seconds for free how much you're owed? Hopefully by now you know. All you do is you go to pocketemploymentlawyer.ca. You see that below me? Pocketemploymentlawyer.ca. And you'll see our severance calculator tool there. It's free, it's anonymous, it's easy to use. You just answer a few questions, click the button, and it's going to tell you how many months severance you're owed. Maybe you're owed 6 months severance, maybe 12 months, maybe 24 months. Either way, you can find out for free. You should know that. Whether you've been let go because of a vaccine issue, whether you've been put on a temporary layoff, on a leave of absence, maybe you're let go because of restructuring, you have to know how much severance you're owed. Chances are, whatever your employer offered you is a lot less, and I mean a lot less than what you're legally owed. 90% of people, 90%, that's a huge amount, when they're let go, are offered a lot less than what they're owed. They've been wrongfully dismissed. So chances are, same thing with you. So that's why you go to pocketemploymentlawyer.ca. That's why you use the severance calculator. And it also has a button there if you want to contact me directly, only if you want, so I can help you get the severance that you're owed. Okay. Another question from JC 2004. Do you deal with disability law, or should I ask Alex a disability-related question? Yeah, we deal with disability law, absolutely. Yelena asks, has anyone won a lawsuit regarding vaccination dismissal? My employer does not want to negotiate severance pay. No, of course they don't want to, but no employer ever wants to pay more. That's why we make them. No, there have been no court cases yet on this, but the reason why there haven't been any court cases is because these cases settle, they resolve. We don't have to go to court in most of these cases. We do what we need to, and then the employer pays what they owe. So I don't care what your employer wants to do. I care about what I can make your employer do. Okay, so if you've been let go, let's talk about it. I don't care what your employer said to you, how easy they are to work with or not. That's what we do. So forget about going to court. Going to court is a dirty word. Okay, you don't want to go to court. You want to get what you're owed, and you don't want to wait 2 years to go to court. You want to get paid in 2 weeks or 3 weeks or a month. That's what we do. Okay, so if that's your case, Yelena, let's talk about it. Not later. Let's talk about it as soon as possible. You can reach out to me through employmentlawyer.ca. Next question from Morgan on Facebook. My employer refuses to allow me to return to work gradually. I have been off work for mental health. Let me just see here. For mental health reasons for over a year. My employer demanded I get treatment, and they're demanding that I be on medication when my psychiatrist states I don't warrant it. Holy cow. No, that's illegal. The only one that decides if you're able to go back to work, the only one that decides if you need treatment, if you need medication, is your doctor. In fact, your employer doesn't even have a right to know why you're off work. The only thing that they're allowed to know is there a medical condition? Whether it's mental health or you have a bad back, it doesn't matter. You don't have to tell them why you're off work. Just that there's a medical reason. What that medical reason is, forget it, nonsense. So you need to call me as soon as possible, okay? I wouldn't wait on this. What this employer is doing is illegal in so many ways that I've lost count. So you need to reach out to me through employmentlawyer.ca, Morgan. Don't wait on this, okay? It's ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. One of the most ridiculous things I've heard in a while, okay? So reach out to me as soon as possible. Bubba Wilson on Facebook, next question. Do seasonal workers get severance pay? Absolutely, yes. So here's how that works. So if you usually have a job that's seasonal, let's say you start working in June and you work till November, and then you come back the next year, June to November. If all of a sudden your employer decides not to bring you back, they have to pay you severance, okay? They've terminated your employment. So if you have a seasonal job and your employer decides to end it, not to call you back during the season, yes, absolutely, you have to get paid severance. We have a few more minutes, guys. My name is Lior Samfiru. I'm the employment lawyer. I'm here live answering your questions, as you've been saying. So please don't be bashful. Don't just listen to other answers. Ask your question. You still have some time, a few minutes. So please take advantage. Ask your questions. Next question on Facebook from Kathy. I'm on short-term disability, 26 weeks in April. It may be extended into long-term, which company covers for 24 months. What happens after that? So it's a question of, do you have a long-term disability plan at work that covers you beyond 24 months? If the only disability program that you have is for 24 months, what happens after that means you're going to be on an unpaid leave, okay? There's no plan, so you have to be on an unpaid leave. There may be certain government benefits you could qualify for, but you'll be on an unpaid leave until you're able to go back to work. If your doctor says you're never going back to work, you could be getting severance now, not a lot, but some severance. But generally speaking, if you don't have any benefits from your employer, no disability benefits after 24 months, then you become an employee on an unpaid leave. Next question from JC 2004. If you did not meet the $5,000 requirement for CERB due to a vehicular injury, can you challenge that requirement given that people on maternity were given a waiver on that? No, you won't be able to challenge it, unfortunately. King Awesome has a follow-up question on YouTube. Will getting a job after my termination affect the amount of my severance I'm entitled to, as described on Pocket Lawyer? Yes, it could. So depending on when you found another job, it could impact it. Now, if we've already resolved your severance issue, then it doesn't matter. But if you find another job soon after you lost your job and before we've resolved the severance issue, yes, it could impact your entitlements. So to actually put numbers in there and to calculate it properly, feel free to reach out to me, to my team at employmentlawyer.ca. Again, employmentlawyer.ca. So, Mr. P, any arbitration decisions for non-union medical staff fired due to hospital-imposed COVID mandates? So there's no arbitration decisions at all for non-union because non-union cases don't go to arbitration. So arbitration is only for union. And yes, there's plenty of unionized decisions from arbitrators. I think I'm up to date right now on the question. Oh, there's another one that just came in. Ask your questions, guys. I'm here for another 5 minutes or so. So don't wonder after, should I have asked the question? Just ask that question. There's no downside. Worst case scenario is if I don't know the answer, I'll tell you or I'll point you into a direction, but chances are I know the answer. Randolph asks, how do I deal with a toxic work environment? Good question. I have heard that you can sometimes leave and still get severance, but what goes into that? So yes, you absolutely can leave and get severance, but to be able to do that, you have to be able to show two things. Number one is that in fact there was a toxic work environment, right? Company's not going to admit it, so you have to be able to show that that was the case. Do you have witnesses, emails, recordings, anything that shows that? Number one. Number two is you have to show that you've given the company the chance to fix the problem. So you've talked to someone, you've talked to HR, whoever it is, the right person in the workplace. You've told them, here's the problem, please do something about it. And they didn't. So if you can show that there's a problem, number one, and number two, that the employer's done nothing about it, absolutely you can leave. That would be considered a constructive dismissal, potentially even a human rights violation, depending on the situation. And yes, you're going to be owed severance. So the best advice I'm going to be able to give you right now, if you're facing a toxic work environment, a poison work environment, let's talk, okay? Let's do this properly. Let's talk about how do we approach your employer. Let's talk about what kind of evidence we have. So you want to reach out to me through employmentlawyer.ca. Next question is from The Dreamer on YouTube. If you have more than one job and that one job lets you go, will you still get full severance even though you can continue working at the other job? Absolutely, yes. Yes, if you have two jobs and one lets you go and you simply continue in the second job, absolutely, yes. You are going to get your severance, your full severance from that first job. Not even a question. The second job won't impact it. Let's see, from Lita, next question. My boss has announced his retirement. The business will close when that happens. I have been given 6 months notice. Worked with him for 14 years. Do I have any entitlements? Absolutely. So depending on how long you worked there, we know it's 14 years, and the type of job, you're probably owed 12 months severance. It could be more, but let's say 12 months. If you've received 6 months notice, that 6 months counts towards your severance, towards your 12 months. Meaning, at the end of employment, your employer is still going to owe you another 6 months pay. So the notice that you've gotten, we call that working notice, counts towards your severance, but you're still owed the difference. So Lita, yes, you're owed another 6 months, at least potentially more. That assumes you're still employed. You don't quit before then. So if that's your situation, once that notice ends, once you're no longer working, we need to speak right away so that we can get you the severance that you're owed. So let's see. Last question of the day from Morella. I'm on an unpaid leave of absence due to the second dose of vaccine. Can the company let me go in this time, or they have to take me back after mandatory vaccination will be lifted? So can they let you go? Yes. Do they have to take you back? No. But they have to pay you severance. They have to pay you severance now, not even when vaccination is lifted. You can require them to pay you severance now. So you can wait and see what happens. That's your right. Maybe they will call you back. They don't have to. What they do have to do is they have to pay you severance. And you don't have to wait until they decide to do something. You can force the issue now and require them to pay you severance. Okay? Hopefully that helps, and hopefully that answers the question. So Morella and all of you, if you want to follow up with me directly, if you want to talk off social media now that this session has ended, easy. I've given you that address. I'm going to give it to you one more time, employmentlawyer.ca. Again, employmentlawyer.ca to connect with me and my team, over 40 lawyers across the country, willing to help, working with people for all employment law issues. So please, if you have an issue, you know what to do, you know where to go to. We do these sessions often. I'll be back also next week, but don't wait until that happens, okay? If you have a question, if you want an issue resolved now, let's connect off social media. Guys, thank you very much for all the great questions. Always a pleasure. I'm Lior Samfiru, the employment lawyer. I'll be back soon. Then talk to you then. Take care, everyone.